All right, welcome back to Going Big Time with Mike P. and Steve, who's behind the camera. He also set up this one. Probably don't need it for today, so we'll focus on this one. Today, we're going over our initial understanding of reading rhythms, okay? And I'm gonna keep this brief because it's not that tough, right? You know, it's reading is always one of those things I feel for new students that it's kind of daunting. It's like, oh shoot, I have to read, that's boring, blah, blah, blah. It's not boring, it just takes a second and it's just math. It's just easy math. It's very basic fractions, okay? And so let's talk about it, okay? So we're gonna I'm gonna whiteboard the crud out of you, okay? So here it goes. So we got 1 bar of music, okay? So what does that mean? So generally we have 4 beats in a measure. What do we mean by that? We count just 4 beats. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna do that. 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And look at this. We have a little pizza down here, huh? So again, this is fractions, right? So biggest note we can do in this context is a whole note. So look at this. A whole note is just a little circle. There's nothing to it, right? That, guess what, takes up the whole bar. One thing that's very obvious about this stuff is it's all in the name. Whatever note you're talking about, that's gonna be how much of the bar it takes up, okay? So, like I said, whole note, whole bar. What's next? We do half notes, right? So that means like we have the pizza, right? We cut it into 2. So we get 2 halves, right? Meaning if we have 4 beats, then a half note is gonna take up 2 beats, right? Easy. So 2 whole notes take up a whole measure, right? And so notice it looks like a whole note, but it has a stem on it. So 2 half notes make a whole note, right? That's the breakdown, duh. And so that's all that is. And we'll see those here and there, but generally what we're gonna get into are the next few, okay? So like I said, right, we have 4 beats, right? So what does that mean? Well, we are cutting the bar up into 4 quarters, okay? So just like our pizza, we have now 4 slices, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 beats, 4 quarter notes. Easy, right? That's a common rhythm we're gonna see is the quarter note. That's gonna be all over the place. And we'll get more into that, but quarter notes for now, for our stuff at the moment, those land on the downbeats. A downbeat is the number, right? That's the beginning of each of the beats. So what we're gonna get into now is possible upbeats, right? So we're cutting these quarter notes now into 2 equal slices. So what is that gonna mean? That means we're cutting quarter notes into 2, making 8 notes. So what do you think that means? They're gonna be 8th notes, right? So we got, this is terrible writing, but this is the way it's gonna be. So we got 1, right, has 2 beats, 2 has two notes, not beats. There's 4 beats still, but each of them has 2 notes, right? So we're cutting the bar up into 8 equal parts. We get 8th notes. We're gonna see these all the time. But notice, right, the counting hasn't changed, which it shouldn't, because those beats stay in the same place, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we do need to count those 8th notes, okay? And so I'm gonna write little ampersands. We got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so those are 8th notes. We're gonna do that a lot on the hi-hat and the ride cymbal, so keep that in mind, okay? That's gonna be important. Notice, yeah, we got 8 slices, right? That's the whole thing. So now, what we can do is cut these 8th notes into 2 as well. We're getting smaller and smaller. Notice that number is getting higher, right? We went from quarter to eighths, now we're going to 16ths. So the higher the number, the smaller the note, okay? So with this, we're now putting all these, we're cutting all these 8th notes. Oh, this is getting sloppy. This is getting sloppy. I'm gonna reset this. So you get the idea with the 4 beats, but now we have 8th notes being cut, right? So we have two eighth notes like this, right, that are connected via a beam. Side note, eighth notes on their own kind of look like a quarter note. They have a stem and a note, but they also have what's called a flag, okay? When two notes are connected in the same beat, or sometimes within the same half of the bar, those flags connect and they become a beam, okay? So that's how we get that. But when we get 16th notes now, we're splitting those eighth notes into two. And so these are still eighth notes because it's only one beam, but when we make 16th notes, we have to put a second beam across that. So now there's two beams connecting them. So if we had 4 beats of this, what are we gonna have? We're gonna have 16 notes. Hence, we call it a 16th note, right? And 16th note on its own, 2 flags, not just 1, right? So that's what that means. We'll also get into 32nd notes, which is just another thing where you cut a 16th note into 2, right? And we add another beam. So 32nd notes will have 3 beams, right? And those can sometimes be daunting for students because it's like, holy smokes, that's like real fast. And it's like, it's not fast, it's just fitting more notes into the same amount of space. But in general, the context is just, it's all the same stuff. Like it's the same relationship from an 8th note to a 16th note as a 16th note to a 32nd note. It's all the same stuff. It's all just fractions. And there's context for it in whatever song we're gonna play or whatever like fill we're gonna do. It's not as scary as you think. So just, you know, get comfortable with that. The other thing, right, which I haven't gone over, is we were counting eighth notes 1 and 2 and, right? So we had the number and the and, right? So that still holds true. The first note and the second note, right, those would have been our eighth notes, but we cut those into 2, so now we have these 2 other notes. And notice we don't call this one and, we still leave the and in the same place. So we need a new syllable for that one. So we're gonna say the middle one is the E, and the one at the end we'll say okay? So we got 1 E and a, right? 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. We're gonna build fills with this, we're gonna play drum beats with this stuff, so, you know, get comfortable with this breakdown. Because all that stuff is gonna be really important when we start, using all of it in these new contexts, right? So quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 16th notes, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And then we'll maybe do some 32nd notes down the road. We can count those. You would count it like 1 E and E and a, because we're splitting both halves of those beats into 4. We'll get to that at some point. But don't worry about it. We're gonna focus on quarter notes, eighths, and a little bit of 16ths, okay, moving forward. So get to know that, rewatch this if you need a review of that. But yeah, so let's move on to the next section, okay? That's, if you're looking to go big time.